Wonderful morning to you on this wonderful day, being, of course, Saturday now. Today being the 18th of January 2025. Welcome to Afia Sports Show, the home of sports on Afia TV. You can always get us on DSTV channel 254 and GoTV channel 17, where, as usual, we'll be delving into the world of sports. So much has happened over the past week, and of course, we're in the weekend. Who doesn't love the weekend? People love the weekend for different reasons. But we are going to keep this tuned to sports alone. And so much is happening in the world of sports. Is it football? Is it tennis? Because the Australian Open is getting towards the thick end of things. 1 week down, 1 week to go. And we're going to see what's going to happen because, of course, some people have crashed out already. Emma Raducanu got one of the worst beatings of her life at the hands of Iga Swiatek after getting a 6-1, 6-love mauling. That's a bagel that you're seeing there. And then other bits of sports. Then, of course, whenever you talk about the NFF, because we start from home, charity always begins at home. We need to understand that criticism has to be constructive. But how constructive can criticism be when we all have something to say? And definitely, JJ Okocha, the legend himself, has spoken out and he's refused to apologize to the NFF because he has spoken the minds of many Nigerians. You want to know what exactly he said? Well, you need to tune in. And then we'll also talk about the return to the EPL action, weekend action, actually, because the English Premier League had action over the past week, within midweek rather. And then, of course, other leagues in world football, the top 5 leagues, will be having action today. And then there's a big bit of news, especially if you're maybe a supporter of Manchester City, and for different reasons, who signs a 9.5-year contract? Is that modern slavery or is that commitment? We don't know, but time will tell. Welcome to the home of sports on Afia TV. I remain Sisi Emechebe, also known as Sisi the Rabbi. And we have a full house today for the first time this year. I'm excited because we have, first of all, my co-host, the priest of football, Emeka Madueke.
Thank you.
Yeah, no drum rolls for you now, eh?
I mean, I'm the priest.
Okay, he's the priest. No, so if there are no drum rolls, there'll be bread rolls.
Oh,
maybe, perhaps. All roll in a roll, right?
Surely.
Speaking of rolls, somebody rolled in for the first time this year. And we have, of course, KP himself. KP, welcome. Happy New Year. Happy everything. Happy Merry Christmas. Where do we even start from, KP?
Just nice to be here. And nice play on words there from Sisi the Rabbi.
Yeah, it's good to have you here, KP. And then, of course, what is a show on a Saturday morning like this without the divinator who's going to divine for us? Divinator. Divine Onwuka, sorry. See now, you see now, the excitement is always palpable and it leads to some confusion, healthy confusion. But of course, we have Divine Onwuka here, the divinator himself.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, likewise. So, we are diving straight into what's been happening over this past week, and of course, what's to come this week, reviews and previews and all whatnot. And it's good to know that the Super Eagles this past week, first of all, since charity always begins at home, there's no NPFL action. Before we talk about the Super Eagles matter, we're going to chip this in quickly. There's no NPFL action this weekend. It's going to start next weekend, and it's in as much as there will be no NPFL action this week, the second stanza of the season, there is an NPFL club that, to some, may be bidding a final hurrah. To some others, if you believe in miracles can happen. Miracles do happen. I believe in miracles, but miracles have to be calculated. I don't know why Divine is looking at me like this, but I'm referring to
wounds, right?
I'm referring to what may be the biggest escape act in the world of African football. Now, let me give you context before we talk about the escape act. There is a group in the CAF Confederations Cup. It's called the Group D, which is the group of death for many reasons. There are 2 Cairo-based clubs there. Zamalek, perennial champions alongside their bitter rivals, Al Ahly. They are always winning the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup. So they are giants in their own right in world football, not just African football. Yeah. Then you have Al Masry. They are lesser known rivals that are there, Egyptian club too. And then you have, Black Bulls of Maputo, Mozambique, who are in the same group. And then you have Enyimba, 2-time winners, the only Nigerian side to win the CAF Champions League back to back. So, I mean, they have pedigree in their own right.
Yeah.
But it's Group D for a reason, the group of death. And to cut a long story short, Enyimba find themselves having 5 points in this group. And what's that? Those 5 points came as a result of their home exploits, if you call that. Now, at home, and when I say home, I'm not referring to the stadium in Aba. Obviously, the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium in Uyo is the stadium that was approved for their home matches at the continental level. So Enyimba find themselves in hot water, a very Herculean task ahead of them, because at home, they've picked up 2 points at home against the Egyptian sides. That is against Zamalek Al Masry more recently, a 1-1 draw. And then they had to come from behind on both occasions, because the first match that they hosted, in the CAF Confederations Cup was against Zamalek. Zamalek were leading 2-0, and they had to rally around, come from behind, and then get the draw. They shared the spoils. The only win, the solitary win that they picked, was that return leg against Black Bulls of Maputo, where they thrashed them 4-1. Joseph Atule scored a brace in that game, and then the Brown Ideye scored a goal. No, I'm trying to remember his name. Please forgive me. But he scored one of those goals too. But Ideye scored on his return to the NPFL, and of course now for Enyimba 4-1. But that's a solitary win, and the away fixtures have been very, very bad. The 2 fixtures of Enyimba so far, they went to Cairo and they were beaten by Al Masry 2-0. They went to Mozambique, Maputo to be precise, against Black Bulls. And the match where people felt they would get something, they were thrashed even worse, 3-0. Now, if they could lose to Al Masry and then lose to Black Bulls, the smart money tells you that there is a thumping that waits for them at Cairo against Zamalek. Although one can dare to dream, but as it stands right now, the only realistic chance that Enyimba have to qualify to the next round of the CAF Champions Confederations Cup, I beg your pardon, is to get an unlikely win against Zamalek, and then hope the results work in their favor in the match between Black Bulls and Al Masry. So what's your take on this? Because really, I've tried to look for all the euphemisms to use and all that, but let me just face the fact. Enyimba are in a pot of hot boiling oil, not water now, oil. What's your take on this, Emeka?
Well, like you said, it's going to take a miracle for them to pull through to the next round. But I mean, miracles do exist in football. It's not new that you see smaller clubs do it against the big boys and make it to the next round. Well, let's just hope and pray that they can actually do the job, even if it's just a 1-0 victory. Even if
1-0. Okay, a man can dare to dream, but dare to dream. Since we're in the realm of dreamers right now, KP, what's your take on this match?
To be honest, I think Enyimba's only chance of making it out of the group or getting a result in Egypt is a purely pragmatic approach. There is no two ways about it. We have to sit deep and defend. I know people may say it's negative football. Why are you defending? Football is meant to be enjoyed and whatever. Football is a results game. It's not about, to a degree. For amateur level, it's about having fun. But I think when you get to the professional level, it's not about getting results. It's a job now. It's what you are doing to put food on your table and whatever. So I think the coach has to go with a pragmatic approach. 1-0 victory. First, don't concede. And then, it's something my friend always said when we were in school. You say, well, in African game, you can hang in there 0-0, all of a sudden, a penalty, and you may get a lucky pen. Who knows? You may get a lucky deflection. Just hang in there in the game, and then we may see a result. But I don't see this happening. Let me just get that clear. I don't see it happening at all.
No, KP had to spoil the show. Before we get to Divine, I think a bit of context is important in this, because there's something called the new manager bounce in football. And usually the new manager bounce is a 50-50 situation. Sometimes it could be a very, very negative bounce because the players are still trying to acclimatize to the manager and his tactics and his instructions. And of course, will be tied if there's a language barrier. Then also the new manager bounce could be a positive one if the players are playing for their shirts and then the manager is able to communicate his vision to them immediately. Sometimes these things work. And just for the sake of context, remember it was Yemi Olarinwaju that was the manager formerly there. And Yemi Olarinwaju managed the first half of their campaign. And what he could pick from that first half of the campaign was 1 point, solitary point. He was the one that oversaw Enyimba when they lost 2-0 to Al-Masri and 2-0 to Black Bulls, and then they got that draw against Zamalek at home. But Stanley Eguma got in there. He's the new coach of Enyimba, for those who do not know. He got in there, and then in his first game, continental game, he's a veteran manager. No disrespect to Yemi Olarawaju, he's done the best he could. But in his first game, you saw that new manager bounce worked. He got that 4-1 thrashing, that win over Black Bulls. And then you could say that this was not the best of results. He came from behind and then got a draw against Al-Masri, albeit at home. So Yemi Olarawaju got a point from his 3 games. Stanley Eguma has picked 4 points from his 2 games. Now, if there's anybody who could work that magic, like what you said earlier, if there's anybody who could work that magic, I think there are not too many managers in the NPFL who could actually stare certain defeat in the face and say, not today. I think Stanley Eguma is one of such managers. I don't know, Divine, what's your take on this? And I know this is dear to your heart in a way because, I mean, the Abia connections, Enyimba and Abia side, and really, you would want to have an Abia team do something miraculous.
Exactly. I like the last word you used. Miraculous.
I believe in miracles. Of course, I'll tell you.
I do believe it's football, anything can happen. But left for me, if how do I say it? The coach has given the players instructions on what to do. That's one thing. Another thing is to carry out the instructions just the way the coach has actually given out to you. So if he has actually, like you said, he's a veteran coach, so he knows what he's doing. He has been in such situations before. So it's more like hope, not really an expectation. So let's just hope that something positive comes out from the whole thing. But I pray that like Isaac said, pen, lucky, and then
Just add to what he said. To be honest, the only chance or hope we have is a manager like Mr. Stanley. Looking at Yemi, this was his first outing on the continental stage. He is someone that just got the interim job when Finidi George came to the national side, and he did a decent job. Pushed for the title, just came up short at the end of the season, but no experience at continental level as the man in charge so far. But this new manager, Mr. Stanley, if he was, one thing we could say is that if he was in charge from the start of the campaign, we'll be in a better position, definitely speaking. But I know that something could be done over there in Egypt. And we just have to keep fingers crossed, keep watching, and hope for the best.
Okay, so speaking of keeping fingers crossed, hope. The good book says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when desire comes, it's a tree of life. But hope is not a business strategy. That's the balance in all this. So I hope I'm proven wrong. And speaking of hope, we also hope that the Chan Eagles will do a very good job.
Yeah.
Even though we have to wait a little longer because we are hoping that still on this issue of hope. Yeah, it's good to hope. But we're hoping that we would watch the Chan Eagles, that is the Super Eagles B team, do their stuff from the 1st of February to the 28th of February. We're hoping to see that in the 8th African Nations Championship, the Chan tournament that's going to take place. And that would have been the first opportunity for the new manager of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, Eric Sekuchel, the Malian manager. He would have been in a supervisory position to handle this from the first. But unfortunately, it's been postponed for reasons best known to the organizers, to August. And that's really sad. Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, who are the co-hosts of the tournament, would actually have to wait till August. That's a long wait indeed. But, the draws are out. And then if you look at the Group D, the Chan Eagles are placed in Group D. And in that Group D, facing Senegal, Congo, that's their Congo, and then of course Sudan. So Nigeria have a big opportunity to show their stuff and then assert their dominance and superiority at this level. A win is a win. Anything that you can get to show that, first of all, that you're the big dogs in town and in the yard, rather. And then also, because one thing about wins is that they give momentum. Yeah, momentum. Exactly. And really, based on that, yes, quite all right. Like I said earlier, Eric Shell is not the one that's going to be in the dugout. It's been clearly stated out that his first stint in the dugout physically is going to be from March, which will be the World Cup qualifiers, when we return for the World Cup qualifiers. But the CHAN tournament, he's not going to be in the dugout. He's going to be there in a supervisory position, I beg your pardon. So we're going to watch and see. But he was unveiled this week. As Eric Chell, the manager of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, was unveiled this week. And during his unveiling, he made a lot of promises, talked about the fact that he's an ambitious manager and that he's going to do the best he can to make Nigeria, at least within the context of the Super Eagles, great again. While waiting to see what will happen there. But beyond that, there have been criticisms. People have been saying all sorts of things. They've not been happy. And I want to quote directly what one of the legends himself, JJ Okocha, has said about Richel. First of all, JJ Okocha, who is clearly one of the best footballers ever to come from the shores of Africa. Now, take note, I didn't say he's one of the best footballers in Africa. He's one of the best footballers to come from the shores of Africa, which means he's one of the best footballers in the world. Somebody who, Messi, Ronaldinho, and a host of other creative linchpins looked up to as an idol. That tells you everything about his pedigree and his reputation. Yeah. But he's come out and then he's spoken against, not necessarily against Eric Chell. His issue is not with Eric Chell. His issue is with the NFF playing politics. Now, he said clearly that the NFF they play politics, and then the best bet, I'm just rephrasing what JJ Okocha has said, the best bet is to revamp the NFF and then get people who actually love football, who know football, who understand football. And this, funnily enough, this is what I've been clamoring for years. In all my years of sports journalism, I have been clamoring for a situation whereby the glass house has people who know the basics of football, who love football, who appreciate football, who value football. You could see, yes, until he got enmeshed in that corruption scandal, you could see that the UEFA president was Michel Platini, one of the greatest players that ever graced the game of football. So, and then we've seen other things like, of course, in the NPFL, we see Kanu Nwankwo, the legend himself, who is the chairman of Enyimba that we just finished talking about. And then we see, of course, the COO, that's the Chief Operating Officer and former General Manager of Enugu Rangers. That's talking about Davis Nowumi. He was a legendary striker in his days. And also he was a Super Eagles player. So the point I'm trying to make is this, because see the stark reality. I'm just going to say this before we delve into this matter. It's a serious issue because JJ has spoken the minds of many Nigerians. Compare Nigeria and England, for instance. Let's just look at England. We love the English Premier League. We all have clubs that we have one sort of affinity with. We just love the way they play. And then we see the way the EPL is organized, minus VAR, or the way it's organized. Now, I was discussing with a friend some time ago, and we came to the conclusion, we found out, we did some research, and found out that in England, about 40% of ex-footballers in the English pyramid, football pyramid, not just the Premier League, in the English football pyramid, whether it's the English Premier League, the Championship, the League One or League Two, the professional leagues, 40% of the people that are involved, who are ex-footballers, they are circulated in football. They're either in management, that's in the dugout, or in administration, or as sporting directors, or one form or the other. So they are still relevant. They have a wealth of experience from their playing days, which they offer to the table. They bring to the table. And it's stark contrast in Nigeria. You see cases of ex-professionals, some of them just go into punditry. The few of them, not even too many. Not many of them are managing clubs or in the office doing the job that they should do. So it's really a concern. And JJ has voiced that out. Of course, Victor Ikpeba came out and said, no, what he said was not right, this, that, and others have spoken. But JJ said he owes, because people are clamoring for him to apologize to the NFF, the Nigerian Football Federation. And JJ has pointedly stated that he owes nobody, including the NFF, an apology. Because there is nothing wrong with what he said. He said the truth. He spoke the truth. So I don't know. Let's look at this in the next couple of minutes. What's your take on this matter? Really, does JJ indeed, or maybe from an ethical standpoint, or in a bit not to undermine the profession that made him a legend in the world, does he owe that level of loyalty to keep quiet and watch things go wrong? Because clearly, I mean, let's not tell ourselves a lie. Some things have been going wrong for a
It's
while.
a case of double mind, actually, yeah, because, I mean, you can't just keep quiet and do nothing about what's going wrong in the system. You have to voice out. You have to try and make attempts to fix what's wrong. And JJ coming out to point out a few things that are wrong with the NFF. It's not him trying to just want to speak against or speak ill of the board. He's just trying to point out 1 or 2 things they need to get right. I mean, if I was the chairman or anybody in charge, I would actually take some of what he's saying and put it into practice. But I mean, others clamoring for him to apologize. He actually owes nobody an apology. He said the truth and he shouldn't have to apologize for saying the truth.
Okay, KP, your take.
Okay. Permission to disagree.
No, fine. I mean, it's a few words.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'll say is, the subject matter of whether he owes someone an apology or not, I may not really get into that.
Okay.
It's not really important. But what I would like to speak on what you said, in contrast to the developed countries like England, Spain, where majority of people that have played the game have entered different offices, just keeping whatever that is going on flowing. I think it's a bit different in Nigeria. What I'll just comment on that is, there's an aspect that we need to look into as a country in sports. People that have made that transition most of the time, they have gone for further educations, in sports.
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't just, wake up one morning and become, whether it was the CEO or enter administrative offices, sporting director or what have you. Now, we've seen many players, let's say, for example, Giorgio Chiellini and some other players going to university to get degrees to pursue what they want to do in sports, but with a more technical know-how.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a balance that needs to be struck. We want ex-players in those positions, but what I would say is ex-players also need to get the prerequisite education, because administrative offices are not the same as playing soccer. Playing soccer, you can be talented. In the admin office is more of training, not just talent that gets you by in those offices. So that's what I would say. But for JJ Okocha, I understand, many Nigerians have spoken about it, many friends about the appointment of the current Super Eagles manager. But what I'll say is, everything has been concluded. He has signed the contract, and let's give him a chance before we start criticizing. That's just what I have to say. Before the criticism, starts flowing, let's just give him a chance. Let's give him a few games. Exactly. Let's give him an opportunity to know the players before we say, you're not good enough. The question, what's your pedigree, must come up, because that's the fundamental question. But any other question asking, the nationality, why not go for a foreign manager? I don't think it's appropriate or right. My own foreign country. My own opinion, generally, I wanted us to stick with Austin. Yes, I thought that, with the results we have got, not all of them being perfect, but I saw some continuity in style of play and what have you. So it was a shock when, the Super Eagles came and announced that we have a manager finally. But now we just have to sit back, support our manager, and hope for the best for the Super Eagles.
No, before I get to Divine on this, now touching on the issue of continuity, that's part of what, part of the grievances, I guess you could say, that JJ has, which was also echoed by Wanko Kanu, Papilo himself. And the issue of this, remember, just for clarity, let's make it very, very clear. We are all, while men slept, yes, we get that. But Eric Chell was dumped upon us. This is not anything against Eric Chell. Eric Chell is not the issue. He just found himself in an unfortunate situation where there'll be a lot of criticism. A country that has a national team that has over 200 million coaches, that's enough to run you crazy. And I remember the images of him when he was coaching Mali. He was pouring water on his head. Now, that's for Mali. He was pouring water on his head during the match. He might as well just carry a mobile freezer around so he can put his head inside the freezer, because Nigerians will come for you, they'll come after you. It is known.
To cool your head.
But the point is this. We have arguably the best players in world football, technically gifted. In fact, statistics can tell you very, very clearly. You go to most, at least maybe 90 to 95% of teams, national teams in the world, you will find either of two nationalities in those teams. It's either you have somebody of Brazilian origin or of Nigerian origin. It is a known fact. And that's how gifted we are. But sometimes when you talk about the issue of changing coaches, and most times coaches come with their different ideologies, different visions, and then the players find themselves a bit confused. in a bid to, deviate from one point to another. Sometimes that's the angle they were coming from, and that's the argument that they were making. So, but there's a lot of merit. That vantage point that you brought is very important, very, very important. And then the issue of, getting further education and then improving there. You go and get a degree in sports science, go for your coaching badges, which some of our, in fairness to them, some of our managers have done that. Some of our local managers have done
general
that.
manager got his UEFA license. He's in an administrative position. We want to see more of that.
Yes, So really, that's what we want to see. Well, the reality is that we're not seeing too many of them, which is in line with what KP is talking about. But we need to see more, and then we need to make it more vibrant in every area, whether the dugout or the office. But Divine, please give us your thoughts, so we can get ready and move to the next.
Based on
stage.
that, I'll be very fast with what I want to say. Okay. Let's put it this way. Garnet Raw, he got us far to a reasonable level when he was the coach. Up next, Pasero did very well. Next person, Pasero got us to the final of AFCON, if I'm correct.
Yes,
then we have Finney the Judge, who I don't know how far he actually went. I don't know how far he actually went with us, but it wasn't so wonderful. We didn't have a good spell with him, but little time spent with us. Eguavon didn't do so bad. But in all these stuffs I've just mentioned now, all these people I mentioned, I'm seeing it that the foreign coaches are actually, of late, they've actually been making the waves better. They've actually been painting a better picture of the Super Eagles so far. So for me, if this guy from Mali is actually going to do better, whether we like it or not, he's been signed. There's nothing we can do about it. So let's just give him that chance and give him that support to just move on. And then we'll see how far we can go with him.
Okay, and support is all we do. Thank you very much for your points. Support is all we provide and all we can give. We are not going to be in that dugout. We are not going to be on the pitch. We are not going to be in the glass house. We're just going to watch. We're going to observe, and we're going to criticize when necessary, because that's what we do. I mean, it is our job as sports journalists. Yeah. So, having said that, we're going to go on a very, very quick break, and then we'll return. Of course, the jet is warming right now. You guys better get ready and make sure you pay, because we'll get on the jet. We're flying straight to Europe, and we're going to continue from there. Big news all around. One of the bits of news there, an almost 10-year contract for one of the most dangerous center forwards in world football, which will prolong the agony of many defenders. Or will it? We don't know. Time will tell. But we'll return, and then all other bits of news, including a sad piece of news which affects the world of sports in a way. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to the home of sports on Afia TV. And you can get us once again on the frequency DSTV 254, channel 254, and GoTV channel 17. And we've been talking about sports here. I'm not here alone. I have the guys here. But we're going to begin this second segment of the show on a somewhat tragic note. It's never a good piece of news losing someone, especially when that person within this context is somebody who made giant strides in the world of sports. And clearly a legend has been lost. The man who was the first Manchester United player to win the Ballon d'Or, the European Player of the Year, back then in the 1960s, and also the first and only Scotsman to win the title, that illustrious title, the Ballon d'Or. I'm referring to one person who was known as part of the Holy Trinity of Manchester United back then, managed by the legendary manager himself, Sir Busby, and he was part of the Holy Trinity of Sir Bobby Charlton, who's late. He was the last man standing, and now he's passed. You had Sir Bobby Charlton, the Englishman. You had George Best, the Irishman, and then you have, of course, the man who died yesterday at the age of 84, Dennis Law, the Scotsman. Dennis Law, who scored 237 goals for Manchester United in 404 appearances, has gone to be with his maker after suffering from dementia and some other things. But unfortunately, he's passed on. So Dennis Law, I don't know how many of you really have any remembrance of Dennis Law and his exploits. He played for Huddersfield. He played for Manchester City 2 different spells, including one where he scored a goal that was pretty much relegated Manchester United He was sad he got off the pitch in that game. He didn't celebrate that goal. But he was known mainly for his career with the Red Devils between 1962 and 1973, where he scored, I think that was 190 something league goals, first division goals for Man U. And really, he was legendary. He was legendary. So I don't know. Of course, KP, I know that you have Man U affiliation.
Yeah.
So what I'm sure you, in particular, must feel this loss.
Yes. Over time, it was sad to lose other people in the Trinity, like Bobby Charlton, who many Manchester United fans knew across generations. And even one of Sam Botby's babes, as they called them then, Dennis Law. And he's a tragic person, but also a good life. He wasn't cut short in his prime. He lived quite a long time, so for one would say, and he's just happy to see, a player of legendary status, keeps getting the recognition, and he's one of those players we'll never forget in the history of Manchester United. Very instrumental in rebuilding the club, and just to say, cheers, and that's all I have to say. It's just a time of remembrance. I will not cry much about it, but we use it as a time to remember him.
Yes, I think definitely we will remember Dennis Law, because he was a fantastic player in his days. Those who were around to watch him then, I saw clips of him. Obviously, he retired by the time before I came around to the scene. But he was, I watched clips
him live.
of him. Now, disregard that, please. We don't have a vampire in this clip. Disregard what KP said. If I didn't watch him live, then you watch him live. Anyway, Dennis Law was a legend. And if it's anything that, if anything, for his memory, yes, his legacy is still there. That's the statues. Those three statues are there. His hand, he's the one that had his hand up, being lifted up there as a legendary striker, a finisher, was a dangerous finisher. And then he also has the record for the highest number of goals in a single season for Manchester United. Even Cristiano Ronaldo was not able to break that. He scored 46 goals in a single season. A record for Manchester United, which is yet to be broken. It's not going to be broken anytime soon. But we're going to keep our fingers crossed and see how that happens. And no, anytime soon. No, I mean, who's going to score? Rashford.
Zeski.
Anyway, let's Zexi. Don't insult his intelligence. Anyway, so while we're doing this, while we're saying that he will be missed. So may his soul rest in peace, and our thoughts go out to his family and his friends and the well-wishers and everybody that's involved. Now, still talking about, because he played for two different clubs, of course, but he played across the Manchester divide. He played for Man City. And while we're still sticking with Man City, yes, it's news to some, but not news to many. The terrorist, sorry, I take that back, because he's not a terrorist, but I just had to, because he is a terrorist to defenders. The Norwegian brute, the Viking god, whatever you choose to call him, Erling Haaland, has signed a 9.5-year contract extension with Manchester City, which keeps him in the club with the citizens till 2034. Now, that's really massive. And if indeed he stays that long, he's 24, he will be 25 later this year. That will keep him till past his 34th birthday. And that tells you, based on what he's done so far, I mean, he's had a poor season by his standards. And that poor season has produced 21 goals.
And 3 hat-tricks.
And 3 hat-tricks. What a very poor season. And 1 assist in 28 appearances. Very poor season.
I'm telling you, so poor.
Well, these are people alongside the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and amongst others too. Very few people who redefined goal scoring. But before they came to the scene, you are a fantastic world-class centre forward if you could score a goal every other game. That is 1 goal in 2 games. You're a fantastic player. But now we begin to question all these different things. And Haaland has a contract renewal. Yeah, that's going to be very, very terrible for many defenders, potentially. But it also means that if Haaland, this is me talking, this is my view about that before I get to your views. The first question, I'm asking this question right now to myself. It's a rhetorical question. Will Haaland stay for the remaining, those 9.5 years? My answer, nah, I don't see it happening. Now, I think, this is what I think. Haaland will stay for maybe about 2-3 years, at most 4 years. And the reason he may even stay up to 4 years, if injuries permit him, is to break the records that are there before him. Because all things being equal, it's likely that either Harry Kane, if he returns to the English Premier League,
Yeah.
or Mohamed Salah, if he stays in the English Premier League, are the likely candidates to break Alan Shearer's record in the nearest future. That's the goal scoring record, 260 goals. Remember, it's only only 3 players have scored 200 or more Premier League goals. You have Alan Shearer on the top with 260 goals. Then you have Wayne Rooney, who is next, with I think 208 goals. And then Harry Kane with just over 203 goals or thereabouts. I'll verify that. So the closest to catching that, who are still playing now, will have to be Mohamed Salah, whose contract issues are still in limbo. And then Harry Kane, many people are thinking that Harry Kane may return to the English Premier League. And I won't be surprised about that. But I bet you Haaland has his eyes on 2 of Alan Shearer's. Okay, sorry, 1, because Shearer has lost that record. He lost it to Sergio Aguero. Kun Aguero does 12 hat-tricks. Aguero had 11 hat-tricks. Shearer had 11 hat-tricks in total in the English Premier League, which was a record until Sergio Aguero scored his 12th hat-trick and then had that record. But the goal scoring for the Premier League is 260. That's the goal scoring record. Yeah. And if Haaland stays if he finds his mojo and then keeps scoring goals the way he's been scoring, he'll most likely break that record. But I feel, your valuation increases when the length of your contract increases the length of your valuation.
Might I just get to say this?
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's funny actually saying a 9.5-year extension.
Yeah.
But like you said, I don't see him seeing it out.
No,
probably the best of maybe just 3 years or 4 at most. But it's a case of what most pundits will say. Is it the modern day slavery quotes? Yeah. Or is it a case of you wanting to be a loyal player for the club? Because the arguments that people, pundits have different arguments.
Sorry to cut you short. You look at Haaland, you see loyalty.
I feel.
As you're looking at the
Can I respond to what you said?
I said like some pundits will say.
Priest, can I respond to what you said?
Okay.
I feel it's none of the above. Okay. If we're being honest, no, let's be honest. Now, you say, is it slavery? Is it loyalty? It's none of the above. They are getting paid millions to sign this contract, this 10-year deal. This 10-year deal is worth hundreds of millions of pounds. So it's not slavery in the sense that, it can't go anywhere. You're in a prison. It's not.
Cash flow.
And the contract doesn't state that you can't go. I'm sure there may be a release clause inserted inside this contract. And many people have come with their opinions about this deal. Some have said, okay, Man City are being investigated. This may mean that they found some leeway or loopholes in the investigation and they may be free. That's why he could sign a 10-year contract. Others may think, okay, we're tying him down to a 10-year contract. If Man City, for some weird reason, get relegated, get some 30-point deduction for the breaches they may or may not have committed.
They have the cash cow.
Yeah. Now, this is the cash cow, exactly. They can sell him for 200 million, whatever, balance their books. And so there are many things that could be going on here. But how many clubs can Erling Haaland go to? Let's be honest. Is it Real Madrid with Vinicius and Kylian Mbappe, or is the replacement?
He can go to Barcelona.
Is the replacement for Lewandowski?
Will Barcelona pay for him?
Barcelona have returned to the 1v1 rule. So if they sell it, they buy him.
So if we're being honest, there are not many viable options for Erling Haaland out there. If you're leaving Man City, it's not like time pass where you're going higher. You may go to a club of similar stature at this time or go to a lower club. So it's a weird deal, but I just see it's a money deal. It's nothing more than that.
It's a money deal.
Yeah, it's a money deal. We on the outside here, we are seeing what is happening. Yeah. But we don't really know what is happening on the inside. His father might be involved in this. Of course, his father is his agent. Yeah. You never can tell what is actually going on. There might be some funny clauses in the contract that can actually turn a certain tide and we'll be like, we thought it would. No, you can't really tell. But for me, 2034, he might just stay for 9 years. He's not the first person to stay for 9 years in the club. Messi has actually stayed about 15 to 18 years in Barcelona. Ronaldo stayed exactly 9 years.
That is Messi. That is Messi.
Okay, and Ronaldo stayed how many years in Barcelona?
KP, make your point before we move quickly to...
No, I'm saying coupled with this is not the only move Manchester City are making right now. They are trying to show that they are not going down. They are making a statement of Mamouche being signed, victories being signed for Palmeiras. They are going all out. They have made attempts to sign the Italian player from Juventus can be also.
Mm.
So on and on, they are going. They may spend 200 million pounds this January. So the Manchester City are just trying to show the whole world like, hey, we're not out of it yet. We are still in it, and we are still the team to beat out there.
Yeah, keeping fingers crossed. And then speaking of which, because one of the clubs I talk about that has a viable, should I say, they have a big chance, let's put it that way, to sign Haaland should things go south. It could be PSG. But PSG, just to get the record before we move on to the fixtures, PSG officially have signed the services of Visha Varashelia from Napoli.
The Georgian.
Paris Saint-Germain
winger.
now have the Georgian winger himself, who was instrumental to Napoli's first league title alongside Victor Osimhen and others in 33 years. Back then in 2023, when they won, they became the first southern Italian side in a very long time to win the Italian Serie A, the Scudetto. And Varashelia is no longer a Napoli player, so no Conte is going to have to do without him. And now Varashelia goes to a club where you have wing forwards like Bradley Barcola and Ousmane Dembele to compete with. Well, let's just wish him all the best and then hope things turn out right. As we move quickly to the English Premier League fixtures that are coming up this weekend, let's just have the fixtures up there. It's going to start today. There are going to be some fixtures, of course, today, tomorrow, the English Premier League, some games. One of the standout fixtures might have to be the Arsenal game against Aston Villa, where I think Aston Villa have signed the services of Donny Malen.
Yes.
They've done that. No, he was a former Arsenal player. So in a bit, we're going to have the fixtures out, and then we have them. Match week 22 from Saturday here, Saturday the 18th of January to Monday the 20th of January. We have Newcastle United up against Bournemouth. The Newcastle United are on a roll. Isak is on fire, simply on fire. And they have Brentford, who will be playing against Liverpool. Now, that's a potential banana skin, considering the fact that Brian Mbeumo has signed a new contract with Brentford, the London Blaze Club. And then Leicester City, will their woes continue against Fulham? Ruud van Nistelrooy really has to turn things around before they sink in there. And then you have, of course, West Ham United against Crystal Palace, the London Derby. That's going to be the first, I think, is it the first home? Yeah, I think it's the first home game Graham Potter from Graham Potter since his return to London. And then you have Arsenal against Aston Villa. This was the fixture where Arsenal lost the Premier League last season. So revenge obviously will be on their mind.
Lose it again?
No, let's keep our fingers crossed, but revenge will be on their minds. And let's not forget, some of their defensive reinforcements have come there, even though they're talking about a lot. We will talk about Arsenal very, very briefly also regarding what's the move in the transfer market. If centre forward, now that Gabriel Jesus is out for the rest of the season, clearly because of that ACL, and we have talk about either Vitor Gyökeres or Benjamin Sesko, who could be coming in. We just compare and contrast them. But Arsenal have defensive reinforcements back. Tomiyasu was training, Ben White was training, and then of course Ricardo Calaferi was training. So that's a big boost for Arsenal Football Club there. And then Everton, the Moisaiah himself is back in his second game at Goodison Park, because he lost the previous game at Goodison Park there. He's playing against Tottenham Hotspur. That would be a very tough one. David Moyes has a lot to do. Man United are on a high right now after winning, Southampton. But come on. They didn't deserve to win that game. But the brilliance of Amad Diallo. So Diallo he's irreplaceable for Manchester United, and they'll be hosting Brighton and Hove Albion. Nottingham Forest, who are one of the revelations of the season under Nuno Espirito Santos, they are going to be in action at home at the Forest Ground against Southampton, whose woes are most likely to continue because they are going to really get a bashing. It seems nothing other than that, because Forest are in third position, and rightly so. Ipswich are going to play against Manchester City. Now, this Man City, will they have a revival like they had? Will they stutter like they stuttered in the previous game against Brentford, where they lost a 2-goal lead thanks to a base from Phil Foden, and then they snatched a draw from the jaws of victory? Will that happen? Well, Ipswich will have to look into that. And finally, we have Chelsea Football Club playing against Wolves, trying to get the double over Wolves. Remember, it was a 6-2 mauling in the first leg with non-Emmanuel hat-trick. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed and watch how this pans out. That's for the EPL. So what are the standout fixtures here? I think we don't have time to get to the other leagues.
Arsenal,
Aston Villa.
Arsenal,
Liverpool.
Yeah.
Brentford, Liverpool for me is going to be a feisty one. Interesting game coming up.
Very, very interesting indeed.
Man U Brighton is another key one to watch.
You could say that, yes, that's Ruben Amorim, who's going to turn 40 on the 27th of this month. and then of course the youngest manager there, Flippin Husela. That's going to be a very, very tough one.
When I say Newcastle, Bournemouth,
I'm looking more at like the Man City Ipswich game. Just like you said, they need to get their mojo back fully. Let's say they've gotten half of it, they've not gotten full.
So they've got more.
Yeah, the Joe is not there.
Okay, fine.
Because they lost the 2-goal lead.
Might I just dream and say the Chelsea game is another one to watch?
Why? Because it's Wolves. Anyway, Chelsea might be one to watch for him. 6-2, 6-3, right? Okay, let's keep our fingers crossed and watch how that happens. We will now. Okay, I'll say this now. I know that you're not of an Arsenal persuasion, but just a question because of what's happening in the transfer market, and then you're looking at. Let's just assume you mean well for Arsenal. You want Arsenal to go forward, and then there are two major options because it's clear right now that the offensive reinforcements are needed. Gabriel Jesus is out for the rest of the season. Kai Havertz has floundered a bit. He's lacking a bit of confidence, but he may get back. And then you're looking at the Bukayo Saka he's still going to come back, but we don't know when exactly. And then his deputy, that's Ethan Nwaneri, who's likely to come back soon, but we don't know how soon. So the offensive reinforcements that are needed there. Two options now. Talk about Benjamin Sesko. Of course, his agent has come out to say that there is no truth in him being a loan deal. He's rubbished that claim about a loan deal, and that he's still a RB Leipzig player, clearly. And then you have Vitor Gyökeres. There seems to be a bit of traction in that. The Man U are battling to get that, but they are being outpriced out of the situation. Now, let's look at their stats, just two of the stats, and then tell me what's your take on that? First of all, you're looking at both of them have played 17 league games for their respective sides. Gyökeres for Sporting Lisbon in Portugal, and Benjamin Sesko for RB Leipzig in Germany.
Yeah.
Now, Sesko in those 17 games has scored 8 goals and had 2 assists. But Gyökeres in those 17 games has scored 21 goals and had 3 assists. If you are somebody who wanted Arsenal to really reinforce properly, which of these would you suggest?
I know most people will look at me with one eye for saying this. On paper, it's sure you want to go for Gyökeres because he's proven his prowess this season with his goal scoring front.
Okay.
But if I'm to say, looking at both players and this Arsenal setup, I would rather bank on Arteta going for Sesko.
Okay.
Sesko is the kind of player I see who might adapt to Arsenal's gameplay quicker and get in touch with what Arteta's visions are for that striking role. That's my thoughts. I don't really see Gyökeres hitting the ground running in the Premier League. I don't see that happening. I do not know why. I just don't see that.
Okay, KP.
Okay. Well, I disagree with you a lot, right? Well, let's see. What I'll say is, aside the league form, Gyökeres has done it also in the Champions League. The only thing I'll be looking at is Gyökeres is a proper gunman with better hold-up play than some of the ones we see in the Premier League.
Like Haaland.
Yes, exactly. I didn't want to call names. So you're good ahead of me. Now, he has wonderful hold-up play. The only thing I could see as maybe the difference where you say, oh, maybe let's go for Sesko is the age. And maybe if you're looking for someone that will stay for 10 years, you can go for Sesko. Gyökeres is 26.
Yeah, so, 27 this year.
He's 27 this year. He's in his prime. Yeah. So maybe they don't want to get someone in their prime. But for me, if I'm an Arsenal persuasion, I'll go for someone that will hit the ground running in their prime, where I think is Gyökeres. But the outside shout that I will look at among all the strikers is waiting till the summer and going for Alexander Isak.
Yeah, that's if they can actually pay the valuation, the £150 million. Now, please, as we are rounding off, because we need to just touch
on. I'm not even talking much. Gyökeres for me.
Gyökeres. Okay, fine. So that's practical.
To add just 1 minute, sorry, just to add to what he said. I mean, it is a safer option to just wait it out and see if you can get Isak. But what do you do for the rest of the season without the striker?
Yeah, that's part of the issue. Well, that's a conversation that will continue later on. So let's just end the show right now on a sad. Obviously, we can't go for another break. We have to end the show right now on a sad note. It is a sad note because one of the legendary managers in world football, we just talked about the fact that his boy, that's Erling Haaland, has signed a new contract. Football can be a big obsession. And unfortunately, his wife has realized that and it's taken its toll on his family. Pep Guardiola has finalized his divorce from his wife. You know, his wife has parted ways with him, and then they've already shared the properties. She's taken more than half of his assets, even including the home in Manchester. The man is a heartbroken man right now, but when you see him, you just know that he's obsessed with football. And I just hope, well, you really, really, I mean, for his well-being. This is not about rivalries aside and all that. I hope that he finds the peace and the solace to focus on his job and it doesn't mess his head up that much, because really, football is an obsession to him, and it's created a wedge between him and his family. And now we're seeing the result of that. Please, no matter what happens, this is my advice as a family man myself. No matter what happens, whatever your profession is, do not let it get between you and your family. It will not end well. Just like his marriage has ended right now because of this. So we wish him all the best. We wish him all the best in everything that he does. But final word on Pep Guardiola, this situation and all that, his divorce from his wife.
It's really sad to see, actually, because I mean, yes, we get he's one of the best managers in the world. He has an obsession with football, that is clear. But to see that it has cost him a wedge between his family, I just hope that he can maintain some level of communication and, how would I put it, some level of love and trust, connection between him and the children. Even if he and his wife has parted ways, that shouldn't bring a breach between him and his children. He should find a way to work out everything.
I mean, it was heartbreaking. He left the court in tears, and I mean, he was crying. And it takes different kinds of things to make Pep Guardiola cry. So, I mean, okay, final word as we end this.
Just tell him to stay strong, remain strong. It's not the end of the road. Just keep going.
Okay, KP.
Just best wishes to him. It's a solemn assembly now here with this topic, and I just wish him the best.
Yes, and having said that, I'm very, very sure that the whole football fraternity worldwide and sporting fraternity will be wishing him the best for his future. So that's the size of the package for today. Thank you for being with us on the Home of Sports on Afia TV. I've remained myself, Sisi the Rabbi, signing out.
Football. Goodbye.
Take care.